Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday. It is February 25th, 2021, and this is a conversation with Dr. Dan Matthews. And this actually is session number 6. We have recordings of all the previous ones, so if you'd like that information, you may text me 713-622-8900, and I'll send you the numbers to dial in for the recordings and all the codes to get in there. So there are 6 others, an intro plus 5 of these Thursday sessions. So, okay. Think you want to start, Dr. Dan, or do you want me to start with some questions?
Yeah, I'd be good. Just start with some questions would be great.
Okay. Here's one. You mentioned in the last call you're seeing some miraculous results on those clients you've been working with for a long time. You used the expression, we're all snowflakes, and each in our own divine timing and pop like popcorn. I'd love to hear what those clients that have popped are reporting on experiencing on the other side of the pop. That's the question.
Okay. Everyone has sacred gifts, and they're all very unique. And I call those snowflakes because no 2 snowflakes are the same. And even though our gifts are unique in every way, they all come from the same source, as all snowflakes are made of water. It's kind of that analogy. And one of the greatest joys that I get out of doing my service for others is that it expedites people's gifts to come forth. And I love, or if they've already are into their sacred path, doing their service to life, it tends to accelerate it and develop it and transform it. That's the way that my experience with gifts have been. You need to try to wear it out, and if you do, you get a new one that's better. And I love that we all get to progress together. I'm on this planet with 177 million light workers that are here to serve others, and a lot of the people on the call are in that family. And you have hidden treasures within you that starts coming forth once you start your sacred journey of seeking the divinity of life that beats your heart. Once that process starts in you, the payoff you get is that it feeds your soul, and quickly you become very committed to your sacred path. And as you seek the holy order, all kinds of new arrivals of gifts and special abilities that you acquire are all a part of that process. And I'm very joyous to get to work on people and witness that process unfolding. So that's what that's about.
Could you give us an example of the gifts or special abilities you're seeing?
Well, like I say, everyone is a snowflake. If I told you one, it would be just unique to that one. But people are hearing their inner voice, and they're connecting with their gut knowing. And that's your inner divinity speaking to you and leading you, and people need to become very sensitive to that. And when you do what it tells you, it'll always glorify your inner divinity, be a benefit to you and all others, and create joy and feelings into life. That's kind of the bar that's been set on what this brings forth into your life. But it'll be an endless variety of incredible expressions.
Okay. All right. Let me see if I can mute because we're getting a little back noise. Okay. Should be a little quieter now. All right. The next question I have is last Sunday in the healing session, you mentioned something about in this April there would be a fifth dimension event. Can you expand on that?
I think that was someone's question that asked me about the fifth dimension. And, there's different ways of looking at the ascension process. I typically deal with paradigms, and paradigms are realities of consciousness, and they're made up by a variety of dimensions. And the number, if you hear me refer to the 69th paradigm, that's a reality of consciousness created by 69 dimensions. So I deal in paradigms. Other light workers deal in dimensions, and see the first, second, and third dimension in that language jargon is about the downfall world, and the gate is closing on the third dimension. That means the downfall world is leaving the planet and and opening into this fourth and fifth dimension. Well, which they perceive as a new holy order of higher consciousness, an expanded picture of life that allows you to encompass the problems that exist in the first, second, and third, and all of a sudden have a breakthrough perception of what those problems are, where you understand it on a deeper and higher level, and you overcome those issues. That's what happens when you make that bigger picture. But that fifth dimension is what that is in reference to. But that, like I say, that's not the language I would normally use. I speak in terms of paradigms. But I think that's the answer that she's looking for.
Was there anything specific to April, or was
Well, I had access to my wife's feed at the time that question was asked, so I just looked when was that going to happen, and that's when it said. So there's lots of big advances that are going to be happening here really soon. I get them all the time. I'll start getting the new information for the next group healing tomorrow. I don't have a clue what it is, but it's not my job to worry about that. I never do. I just wait, and when they tell me they're going to do something, they always do, and I just wait on it. I don't try. I don't spend a nickel's worth of energy trying to figure out anything in advance. I've found out that's futile.
Got it. When you said we see problems from a higher level when we're operating in the fourth or fifth dimension, is that similar? You said a couple of weeks ago, I think, that wisdom was when we could look at our past pain and we could be grateful for what we learned from it. Would that be like one of the things that happens in the fourth or fifth?
Yes, sure. Yeah, that's a good example. It's hard. It's much easier to be gratified or grateful for your experiences that allowed you to acquire your understanding from a higher level of consciousness. The lower level of consciousness, the more difficult that would be. And so, to be grateful for the experience definitely requires a higher level of consciousness. So that'll be very helpful.
Okay. Let's see. Barbara had a question about there being 2 more pandemics on the way. Is that this year or later? Anything you want to talk about that?
Well, there's always the next thing. Whether it's a cold, a flu, or some kind of big headlines of a virus like the coronavirus has been. But when you look at the history of the world and stuff, there's always going to be the next thing. And I think that's the reason why, more than anything else, that you need to take a broad spectrum approach to this and see the time is up for people to ignore their personal health. that's what's been going on in America. We've gotten a big fat F on our healthcare report card by how people have done with this virus. And in general terms, we're way too overweight. We have too many conditions that are about being way too overweight and eating the wrong kind of diet and not having knowledge or understanding of how to take care of yourself, how to promote a healthy immune system. What are the foods you should avoid that really mess your immune system up? And learning that there is a proven, evidence-laid method to protect your mucous membranes, and that's how all contagious virulence diseases get into your body. You either breathe it in or you eat it. And both of those entryways are about mucous membranes. That's the first level of contact that virus and bacteria have in your body. And if you're protecting the integrity of your mucous membrane by consuming the nutriment of the fermented yeast culture, you're not going to be catching things. I've been taking it for 15 years, traveling all over the country, flying here, there, and the other, and I never get sick. I couldn't tell you how long it's been since I've had a cold. I just don't get those things. And, I eat a plant-based diet. I have a lot of understanding of natural health and healing because I've been in this field for 40 years. And I understand this, and I'm willing to share it to people, but it definitely takes effort. It's not easy to change what you've been doing, especially involving your taste buds. There's nothing more emotionally addicted in your being than your taste buds. And confronting that is quite the challenge. It can be done, but you have to seek it, and it's not common in our society. And so people are very vulnerable to stuff, but you don't have to be. It's because of ignorance, of not understanding that public health measures are very, very weak if people do not have personal health measures. It's your responsibility of your own personal health, and you have to seek it out. There's a learning curve. You have to learn about things. And most people, they avoid responsibility because their mind functions on the fuel of belief. And in belief, no one's responsible. And but that's what that's about, really. So you got to protect yourself. Otherwise, be first in line to get the next shot. It has its repercussions. You see, getting vaccinated for virulence is a form of acquired immunity. And acquired immunity is not normally permanent. You're normally going to have boosters and stuff to go along with it. And the second thing is that the longer we go down this path of vaccinating people, the more evident it becomes that it weakens your innate immune system. And that's the immune system that keeps you alive every moment of the day, and that's about keeping the staph and strep and all these bacteria that are outside of us that have a purpose in life. They're here to break down material to become, organic material. Like if you got a compost pile that works great in the compost pile, but it's not supposed to be inside your body. Or, things happen, you make antigens, things start getting attacked and all of that. But the epidemic in our country of autoimmune diseases is a reflection of how out of balance people's bodies are. It's attacking itself. And, there's a whole story about the fundamentals of what that's really about that I'll share with you sometime. But, yeah, there'll be another one coming, who knows. It could be a year, it could be 5 months, it could be 10 years. But the way you live every day of your life determines your vulnerability to things. And if you take the path I'm telling you about, your likelihood of getting it is much less, and your likelihood of surviving it is much greater. And I can't vouch for the medical approach. That's not what I do, but I recommend people do it that are not willing to be responsible for their personal health. If you're, like I say, if you're still eating donuts and bacon, you need to get a shot. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. The power outages that we had, well, definitely here in Texas last week, do you see those as likely becoming a pattern?
Well, I think that global warming, more than any other thing, is about getting average by doing extremes. And it's like getting an average temperature by putting your head in a deep freeze and your feet in a furnace. You can get average like that, but it's very stressful. And when you live in a world that's stuck in that cycle, you not only have to protect your grid system from the summer extreme heat, but you also have to winterize it, because there's going to be an offsetting equivalence of that coming your way somewhere down the line. If it gets real hot in your area, you're going to have cold snaps from time to time. And it's how the world balances itself in times of a toxic planet. So quite similar to how people's bodies react, actually. You get toxic enough, you start going through chills and fevers, and kind of what the world's doing. So you have to protect yourself. You have to winterize things. They have wind turbines and solar panels in Minnesota, but they winterize them. They don't go out in the wintertime. Texas didn't do that. And so everything froze up. It wasn't just those, green energies. It was, gas wells and the power plant's water supply froze up. There were winterizing issues that caused that experience is what I say about it. But it's really a shame. I really hate that. And I think they should make all of our plumbing in our house have a valve on the outside that you can drain the water out of your house. If the power's off and it's zero outside, that's just going to destroy your water pipes. And there needs to be a simple drain on the outside that water could be released out of the pipes. I wished it was like that. Maybe somebody will come up with that'll know how to do it. To me, it's just an ideal. I thought I wouldn't have a clue how to do it.
You talk an engineer on that one.
Yeah,
excellent
but it
idea.
sounds to me like a good idea.
Yeah. Just to follow up on this business about the big chill that we had here in Texas last week, I think you said on a personal level that it was to trigger some old survival fears. Do you want to talk about that and, times that we froze to death and to clear that, to bring that up, to let it be released?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the benefit of that. I know it's a hard thing to have an experience like that, but see, we're in the season of the great purge of our downfall world contributions that we've made in this life and our past lives to the first, second, and third paradigms, and that would certainly be one. Death through freezing and just survival things. And this triggered up in a lot of people. I've been working on it with them. And it was very traumatizing to people. And whenever something like that happens, the feelings you're feeling are heavily weighed by past life experiences that you carry in your unconscious and subconscious. And they get triggered and they come forth, and it gives you a heavyweight response for the stimulus that you perceive in this life. And just like going through the chaos of 2020 and 2021 politically, that has triggered so much stuff from the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, the Napoleonic Wars, the Civil War, really bad stuff that we experienced that is way worse than what's happened in 2020 or 2021. But just seeing this stuff go on around us has triggered this stuff to come up, and your response is way heavier than it should be. and it's because of the weight of it. But that's exactly what we should be doing right now, is purging our downfall world. And the you know, when things come up that are problems, worries, concerns, and issues, you really have two choices what to do with it. The human thing to do with it is to try to figure it out and fix it yourself. And that's going to take you down the path of your negative ego. Its purpose is to defend yourself, and it does it by enforcing belief systems on the consciousness of self. And then it doles out fear, pain, and punishment, defending and justifying the belief system it imposes on yourself. And that's a butt-kicking, miserable path that we've all done a million times. The other option, which is the way of the new world, is to be a Christed being, to do as a Christed being does. And a Christed being never goes there trying to figure it out and do it itself. It understands that self is the least conscious part of our being. And what you do with your problems and stuff is you surrender them to your higher power, which is your inner divinity. I call that the Lord of your being. And all you have to do to pay for that in full is to yield to its will in your life. Follow that whispering voice and gut knowing, and then show up in your day without apprehension and worry, and take your next step in trusting the divine flow of life, and a door to miracles will open for you, an amazing opportunity and goodness, and a brand new start. You know, all kinds of great things happen when you learn to live the parable of being a Christed being, instead of trying to figure it out and fix it yourself. So you have those two options.
Okay. Next question. Do you see our physical bodies are changing from carbon-based to crystalline? And if so, can you please speak about that?
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to happen, because that's from where it came. You see, when Atlantis sank, the emerald crystal of Atlantis was disconnected from the earth grid, and that crystal kept our crystal light body and the land and water grids in a trinity of oneness. And that was an incredible, amazing place to be. Well, when the downfall happened at the Big Bang at the dawn of time, Atlantis sank, and that crystal was disconnected from the hard drive of the earth grid, and our crystal light body and the land and water grid separated from one another, and our crystal light body devolved and became carbon-based DNA, and the land and water grids went into conflict. And this is why the man's consciousness and his belief is in spite of the laws of life and the laws of nature. It's always wanting to conquer, control, dictate to the laws of life or of the forces of nature, instead of learning to be in harmony and balance. That's the way it was in the Holy Order. But in the human downfall world, it's conflictive and repelling to one another. So, and you know, that's all a part of our human condition. And our flesh body, the most powerful thing to your flesh is your thoughts and feelings. The most profound and immediate responses in your flesh occur with your thoughts and feelings. And when you're in the human belief zone, you run a lot of garbage through your mind in a day's time, and your body is following that, and it's trying to match its energy. On the other hand, if you're seeking your divineness and you're putting your mind into inspiration and positive thought, just from that, your body is going to function a whole lot better. It works a lot better. The next time that you start having a headache or some chronic pain that you have quite frequently, try to remember what you was thinking about 5 minutes ago, and I promise you it'll be a negative thing. And so your thoughts and feelings are profoundly influential to your flesh, and your thoughts and feelings are a indicator of your level of consciousness. When you're feeling good and up, you're in high consciousness. when you're feeling bad, you're down low, and they're like radio stations. You can change them with the push of a button. And so, staying up and feeling good, you have to seek that. Okay.
Okay. Those are the only questions that I have on this end. So let me just give you the text number in case someone has come up with some. It's 713-622-8900. That's 713-622-8900. And I'll just announce that if you're interested, you want to tell us when the next healing is going to be, and I'll tell them where they can go to get on to sign up for it.
Yes, our next group healings are in March, and they will be the 14th and the 28th. So it'll be 2 more weeks from this weekend.
Okay, and those are Sunday afternoons at 2 o'clock Central Time.
Always, yes.
Okay, and if you're not receiving the emails to let you know when they are, you can go to the website, which is holydivinehealingstore.com. That's holydivinehealingstore.com, and you can register for the Sunday healing sessions on that. Now, if you'd like to have a private appointment with Dr. Dan, those usually last about 30 minutes. And
they're scheduled for 30 minutes. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the times that you generally offer those in general are what's your schedule like?
Well, normally, I do 2 in the evening, and I start at 9 p.m. Central, and I usually go a little bit past 10. And I do that Monday through Thursday. And then normally I'll do 2 starting at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, a 10 and a 10:30. And I won't have one on Sunday morning if it's a group healing day. If it's not a group healing day, I'll normally do 2 on Sunday morning also, starting at 10. And then also on Tuesdays and Thursdays afternoon, I do 3 people starting at 3, 3:30, and 4. And that's on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. So you can look at your schedule and see if you want to fit in one of those half-hour sessions with Dr. Dan. And to get an appointment for that, you call Dr. Dan's flip phone that does not text. So you have to call and leave a voice message to 501-416-1996. I'll repeat, 501-416-1996. And if he will call you back and leave a voicemail. So be sure to listen to it because he'll give you the available times, and then you can call him back and get yourself on the schedule. Okay, let's see. I just got another question here. Okay, Janet says, what do you mean, Dr. Dan, when you said you were working with the earth goddesses for the emerald, violet, and golden colors? Who are they?
Well, that was about a 7 or 8 year project that I did. That's been over with for probably 5 years. That ray has now been completed for the purposes that I need it for, and this was a very important primary ray. The threefold flame of the heart is another name for it. It's emerald, violet, and gold. And I had, and see, that light ray was shattered at the Big Bang at the dawn of time. We went from being a holy being to becoming a human being. there were lots of compromises to who and what we were to achieve that. For one thing, we got disconnected from our inner divinity and no longer had a knowing consciousness, and the components of our divinity were separated and fractured. And so that was our human condition. And we lost knowing, and we were put on a belief consciousness with a dominating negative ego to crack the whip and give us fear, pain, and punishment. And so that was, where we wound up in the downfall world. Now, what was the question again?
Let's see. The question is, let me go back. When you were working with the Earth goddesses,
yeah.
Oh, who are they? Who are they?
Well, there's 7 different rays of Earth goddesses, and I've been very blessed to work with to serve a lot of them just in doing my service for them. I don't know why, but it just seemed to attract them. The Golden Ray is actually my wife. She's a Golden Ray Earth goddess, and she's one of the indigenous people of the Earth. There's 144,000 of them, and then I don't really feel like I should name the other 2, just because they might want to be anonymous. I haven't asked their permission, but they're also Earth goddesses, and but it was the Earth goddesses were put in dungeons after the downfall, and they were very much mistreated. They were the royalty of the Earth, and so there was a point that a rescue was done from Holy Divine Healing on the Earth goddesses, and it took 3 years in rehab before they were ready to reassume their sacred services. Of course, there were a lot of kinks to work out and hard feelings, and all that stuff happened in the low consciousness of the first paradigm of death, destruction, killing, and war. And when you're victimized at that level of consciousness, it takes a long time to get over that experience, and you hold vengeance and revenge and all that stuff. And so there was quite a bit of that to get over, but they are so precious and so dear, and such a wonderful part of what the Earth is about, and they are reassuming their divine expression. And like all of us, we all have to purge our downfall world. Our human part has to come up to come out, and no matter how sacred your gift is or how precious your divinity might be, everyone has a human condition to transform, and your gift does not excuse you from the hard work of transforming your human condition. My experience is that the gifted ones get to go first and do their purge, and then they help others do the same. But you always have to go through that. And the Earth goddesses, being back in integrity of their honor and what their holy sacred path is about, is very vital to the support of all things on the planet to be able to have a successful time revealing their own divinity. So they're very important, and that threefold flame is an incredibly important aspect of our divinity. It especially connected from the love particle of our heart to Mount Meru in the Antarctic ice cap down by the South Pole. So that's my answer to the Earth goddesses.
Mm-hmm. So you know these others as human beings on Earth right now?
Yeah, I know probably 25 Earth goddesses.
Oh,
yeah.
Do they know?
Or yeah.
They do
when it comes up, I tell them. And
okay.
Yeah, they know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Let's see. what is the gift or the function of the earth goddesses?
Well, like I'm saying, they're part of the structure of the holy order of the earth. They're what I would call the royalty of the earth. They're in the command of Divine Mother and Mother Earth. They work with all of that. So they're very important. Earth is a female planet actually. The earth goddesses are all about that allegiance of divineness on the earth.
Okay. New question. Would you comment on the effects of the recent solar flares or sunspots on our human bodies? There was a lot of buzz about that causing pain in our bodies this last week.
I'm not tapped into that. I haven't heard anything about it. Actually, I don't. Unless something is really big astrologically, it normally happens, and I'm not even aware of it. I'm usually not aware when Mercury goes retrograde. I just kind of haven't ever had a focus on that kind of thing. But if I'm told something, then I pay attention. But I haven't heard about that one.
Okay. Next question is there duality in pain?
Well, I guess pain and pleasure might go be a duality. But pain, my experience with pain is that it's twice as bad if you run from it, but if you surrender to it, it tends to cut it in half. And so that's what I try to do, is surrender to the pain and breathe into it. When you hurt or you're upset, you start panting in your breath. And when that happens, if you had something to remind you to take slow, deep breaths, it would calm you down, and you would really feel it. So your breath kind of governs how you respond to anxiety and pain, that kind of thing. And, pain and anger come from the very same part of our brain. And that's why if you hit your thumb with a hammer or stump your toe, you usually have a few choice words or something. It'll tend to piss you off, So that's how, pain and anger work together. And, it doesn't have to be just physical. It can be emotional and mental pain, too. Yeah.
There's...
Yeah, but it actually comes from the same part of the brain. One's an experience and the other one is a response, and they're kind of locked together.
There's there's a saying that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Like if you hold on to it and embroider it, it's like you can really milk it out for a lot of experience. Whereas what you're saying is just surrender to it and go into it, and it will disappear on you.
Yeah, watch your breath. Pay close attention to your breathing. And if you're panting, take slow, deep breaths, and it'll bring you out of it. So it's crucial.
Hi. Do you want Barbara to unmute because she has for questions?
Sure, that's fine.
Barbara, do *51. Are you here, Barbara?
No, I don't hear anything.
Okay. Okay, it says you can unmute yourself, so try to do *51 or *6.
Oh, okay. *6 was what worked on this phone.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I'm on my landline. Okay, I did have some questions coming up. I find again, going back, I did not personally understand all about the earth goddesses, and I do understand from a perspective of the treatment in the Dark Ages and Middle Ages that the earth goddesses suffered. I do understand that. But are the earth goddesses, are they here now to purge then all of that? I guess the answer to that is yes. We're all here to purge. But could you expand on that, Dr. Dan?
Yeah, they're here. They're here to do their sacred gift, and because they went through the school of hard knocks like the rest of us, they have purging to be done, and doing their sacred gift is kind of a package deal, just like the rest of us. You know, I'm here, and you're here to do your sacred gift, but you have to purge along the way. It's just a part of it, and it's the same for Earth Goddess as it is anyone else.
I understand that. Okay, that was an answer. Linda, do you have another question regarding that?
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay. I think it's really helpful to understand. For me, I'm just talking from my own perspective about the pain thing. That was really helpful. And to understand that it isn't important to know. I'm being clairvoyant. I sometimes will get an intuitive knowing of what's coming. I don't like to shut that off. But on the other hand, can you speak to that, Dr. Dan?
Certainly. Yeah. Well, you know, the intuitive body is one of the specialty bodies of our spirit. You know, the three are the psychic, the intuitive, and the intelligent bodies. Those are a part of our spirit. That's the divine feminine. And the specialty gifts of our divine feminine, the Holy Spirit, our Holy Spirit, and the divine presence, which is our androgyne, those specialty bodies can only function in knowing consciousness. So people that are intuitive, they have some kind of an expression of knowing functioning in them that's really not common in the general population. But there's always exceptions to every rule. But that, that's a beautiful thing, to have that functioning of your divine feminine working for you. And but as we continue to go forth in our ascension and we start connecting with our inner divinity and acquiring knowing, these bodies, there's 6 of them, 3 in our spirit, 3 in our presence, that are going to light up. And we're not only going to have a psychic, intuitive, intelligent body that functions, but to go along with that, a multidimensional thought processor, a truthful processor, and a telepathy body. And so that's really going to light things up as this knowing starts coming in for people. And it's really right on the other side of the purge, to get the purge out of here. And as that happens, we start moving, the gate starts closing on the third paradigm, and the holy old earth starts to open. We're going to have a great expansion, and our knowing and understanding will become the dominant fuels of our consciousness. That changes everything. Those are 2 very reliable fuels of consciousness, knowing being very truthful, but understanding also being mostly truthful. There could be a little discrepancy in it, but it's mainly on target. And the fuel you got to watch out for is belief. That's your opinion about the things in life you neither know of or have understanding about. nobody has knowing or understanding of heaven and hell and reincarnation and all of these subjects, but they certainly have beliefs about it. But it's through belief that trickery and being lied to and all that stuff happens in those forms of consciousness. And so it's not near as reliable as knowing and understanding. And see, belief is the fuel of the downfall world. It's all about belief, and it was the best thing on the planet when it came here. It brought the beings of unbelief that were barbarians up to the third paradigm, and that's what religious did that was so wonderful, and still do today. There's people astute in the Christian faith that go into prisons and places like that, and transform these people out of that first and second paradigm up to the third, and they can become useful people of society, not be a harm to others and thrive, and that's the first step of ascension, is getting out of the gutter. And that's the first step that the belief consciousness of the generators of belief, like religions, provide for the ascension of the earth. And I'm very grateful for that. But we've gotten to a point that we've milked belief for all it's worth, and it's the problems created by it are profound, and that's primarily been brought forth through the social media, because there's no liability. I mean, to have for freedom of speech to be functional and in balance in people's lives, there has to be liability for spreading falsehood. And see, the Internet's been exempt from that. People can put anything they want to out there. And when I was young, my grandfather, who was, I consider, a wise man, he told me, when somebody gives me advice of something, ask them what they know about it. And if you find out pretty quickly it's just their opinion, they know nothing or understand nothing, if you take that advice, you're going to be a fool, and you're going to, so don't do that. So you have to be discerning when people give you advice. He said that free advice is usually proportional to what you had to do to get it, the value of it, in other words. So you got to be careful with that belief stuff. It's a lot more inaccurate than accurate. Okay. Did I answer that question, or did I just go off totally on a tangent? I can't remember.
No,
we don't care.
Yeah, it was very interesting. The other,
whatever it was, it worked.
Really? Oh. The other thing with the, again, expanding on belief, do you feel that through this purge that the disinformation by social media, by the media, television, and by the Internet will be exposed, or what is the probability that it'll be exposed through the purge?
Yeah, I think it'll be exposed just by people becoming more conscious and aware and moving out of that belief thing. They start getting it, that, hey, it's not reliable information. When people can say anything they want without responsibility, that's what you got. You got that kind of situation going on, and that's why it's causing lots of problems. And see, like a newspaper, they can't print falsehood about you that's based on hearsay or whatever, or they can be held liable. They have liability laws that regulate like newspapers and that kind of thing. But when they made the Internet, they exempted them from that, and they're starting to see it was a big mistake. So, the only way you can have free speech is you counterbalance that with liability. Otherwise, you get into censorship, and nobody wants that. And we want free speech, but we want people to be responsible. And when people are in belief, they're normally not responsible. You have to know and understand to be responsible. And then you wouldn't say those things that weren't true. And you wouldn't spread gossip. And that's really all it is. It's people's opinions that don't know what they're talking about, and it's gossip. And those aren't reliable forms of information. You can normally wind up on the wrong side of the truth with that kind of stuff. So,
or that would include making up stories that are publicized in order to change people's belief about what's really happening in this country.
Right. Yeah, and you know how stories are passed around from one person to the next. 3 or 4 generations down the line, it's a different story than it started out to be. Mm-hmm. And that's how it is. And so you have to discern to find the truth. It's not normally apparent, especially when you're dealing with people's opinions. So it might be an interesting conversation, but I wouldn't take it to the bank because it's probably going to be counterfeit. But anyway, that's kind of the way I look at that stuff. I'll put this one out there, and I think this is a good one. My grandfather used to say the wise man learns from other people's mistakes. The average person learns from his own. Idiots never learn, and fools take advice from them. And I think that we all kind of start off in life at the low end of that meter, and, the more experience and things you have in life, you rise up that scale. And finally, you become wise as you understand, and you're grateful for the experiences you had to acquire that understanding. And so that's kind of the goal of all of us. That's as good as you can do as a person on this earth. Wisdom is at the very top. And interestingly enough, wisdom is a part of understanding. It's not a part of knowing. Knowing is actually beyond wisdom. And that comes from one place and one place only, and that's from each person being connected to their inner divinity. And their inner divinity takes the greatest force in life along with the greatest gift in life, blends the two together for you, that causes you to become enlightened and be able to actualize your divine expressions into this life. And by that I mean manifest that which glorifies your inner divinity and benefits you and all others and makes joyous, loving, kind feelings into life. If you can do that, you are on track, and your life will prove it. So that's where you want to be.
That would make a great bumper sticker. Actualize your divine expression.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, you got to be connected to your inner divinity to do that. And, life is a manifestation. What you demonstrate is your truth. And if your manifestation causes pain and misery, there's something not right. Usually going back to the attitude, if it's programmed by the belief of the negative ego, you're going to have bad thoughts and feelings and make poor choices and decisions. And how that aligns with the laws of life or the laws of the natural world will determine its manifestation. And if it makes pain and misery, that means go back to the drawing board. But if your attitude is programmed by the knowing of your inner holiness, then you're going to have positive thoughts and feelings and make divine choices and decisions, and that'll manifest into what glorifies your inner divinity and benefits all and makes loving feelings. So that's a wonderful thing about life is that it's a demonstration, and it demonstrates your truth, no matter what that might happen to be at the time. But we can always heal things up and change things, and then we get a different manifestation. So we get lots of do-overs on the sacred path. You get all the chances you need to get it right. It's never vindictive or punitive. It's always loving and kind, and I love that.
I have a couple other questions here. Are you complete, Barbara, or
I
you did
am
something
complete.
else?
Do I need
Okay.
to? How do I
Thank you, Barbara.
unmute? Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. This Janet wants to know: was the expansion of consciousness of the 60s part of the beginning of the ascension process?
Of the what?
The 60s, the expansion in the 60s, was that part of the ascension process?
Yeah, I think that was the cracking of the shell. You know, that little chick has to peck real hard to get the shell to crack, and that was happening in the 60s. And then what really brought it into harmony and balance so it could really explode was the harmonic convergence of 87. That's when my thing started really ticking. And even though I didn't get started until 94, 87 influenced me a lot. I was going through a lot of high-level breakthroughs for me personally, you know, getting ready to do what it is I'm doing now. So, yeah, that was a good time.
Okay, let's see, question. I find on the front end of my fibromyalgia, my pain was dark. Now that light is within me and healing upon me, I find the same pain as a light healing. Please speak to this experience and what is happening within the physical cellular structure.
Well, you know, as you ascend and you become more conscious, you create a higher frequency of light, and it changes. You know, your morphic fields are the primary expression of your being from which all things are created, and your morphic fields are upgraded as you seek your divinity, as you go on your sacred path through your own conscious volition. Your frequency starts rising, and it's a subatomic thing, you know, and everything about you is going to start. The old dark thing is going to be purging out, and a new seedling within you is going to be growing, and they kind of happen simultaneously. And you know, healing has always got a time clock and a path you have to go, and it's kind of like, you know, we were driving down the freeway of health, and for whatever reason, we took an exit and started going toward Diseaseville or Paindale. And you get into the natural flow of life, natural healing, you turn your vehicle around and go back down the road that brought you there. But now that you're going to be in harmony with the laws of life and healing, you'll travel in light years, and you'll quickly undo what you created. But there's always a time clock to healing, and most people going through it thinks it's too long. Just like, you know, pregnancy takes 9 months in a human. Most women that have experienced that will tell you that's too long. But that's what it takes. But the good news is you get better all the time. And that's what happens when you start your ascension and your light equivalent starts to rise and the shadows of your being start being consumed. You know, it is a process you have to allow to unfold. And everyone's path is different from one to the other, and that's why only your inner holiness can orchestrate that to the best and highest. And the better that the practitioners of serving others can tap into that, the better they're going to be at performing their sacred gifts. Okay?
Okay, that's the last question I have, and I believe we're really out of time here. So let me just repeat the phone number for Dr. Dan if you'd like an appointment. It's 501-416-1996. That's 501-416-1996. And if you'd like to register for the next Sunday, March 14th healing session, go to the website holydivinehealingstore.com. That's holydivinehealingstore.com. And if you'll text me if you want a list of how to get on, how to listen to the recordings, and what the file numbers are for the recordings, just text me at 713-622-8900. Just please send recording information. Okay, I'm going to turn the recording off unless you got one last thing, Dr. Dan.
Oh, I'm good. I'm honored to be here today, and thank y'all for tuning in.
Thank you. We're grateful. Bye, everybody.